Hi, and welcome to Old Time Knowledge. Well, I realized I was running low on something in my pantry, y'all, and I don't like to be running low on anything, so it's time to replenish. This is boneless, skinless chicken breast. There are a couple of ways you can do this. I'm going to show you how I like to do it, but I'm also going to talk about another way that you can do it. This is the most convenient thing to have. I use a lot of this. I use this same thing to make chicken salad. I use it to make chicken casseroles. I'll use it for a lot of shredded chicken things. Chicken Phillies, I'll shred it and make like a shredded chicken Philly. With my homemade hoagie rolls, I need to do a video about that too. In any case, this is a really easy project. It'll be great for you to have a bunch of this on hand in your pantry, shelf stable. You don't have to worry if you lose your power because you have your chicken without having to worry about it being frozen or anything. So stick with me and we'll get right to it. Before I get even started putting this stuff in jars, I just have to give a huge thank you to Lisa Sutton of Sutton's Days, because it was watching her videos back in the spring that sort of gave me the nerve to start canning meats. That's something that I had never done before, but I am so glad that I've learned to do it, because I've now canned meats multiple times. I'll can up a bunch and then I'll use them up and I'll can some more. So I'm definitely going to link to her video in the comments below so that you can check out her channel, because when it comes to canning stuff, I definitely recommend her. She is a great one. I also have a video already for canning bone-in chicken breast. I use these for different things. So the bone-in chicken breast has the fat and has obviously the bone, and so it's good especially for things like chicken and pastry or chicken and dumplings, something like that, where you're going to need that chicken broth in addition to the chicken itself. Whereas I tend to use the boneless, skinless chicken for things that would be like chicken salad, casseroles, things like that. So, okay, yep, want to have it just about to that line. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and stick that piece in there. I think that'll work. Yep. So, it's good to have meats like this on your shelf in different ways for different purposes. And I cannot tell you how convenient it is if you want to make supper one night and there's something that you think you want to make, and you know if you wanted to actually cook the chicken or thaw chicken out from your freezer, it's going to take you a lot longer. Whereas if you can just pull a jar off your shelf and do that, then that's just so easy, so convenient. And if you're like me, you're gonna get takeout a lot less if you have something like this on your shelf that you can use. And you'll notice this is just raw chicken. When you're canning chicken, it doesn't matter if you cook it first. You're going to can it for the same amount of time regardless. The only thing that changes your canning time for chicken is whether or not you're canning in pints or quarts, and whether or not you're canning bone-in or boneless. I learned that when you're canning bone-in chicken, it's actually going to take less time than canning boneless chicken. And that had me confused, and I was just sure when I read the guidelines on the National Center for Home Food Preservation that that had to be a mistake, because it made no sense to me that canning chicken on the bone would take less time than canning chicken that's boneless. But I spoke to a really nice lady at NC State who's sort of in charge of home extension for the whole state, canning safety and things like that, and she explained it to me. And what it has to do with is the density of the flesh, muscle tissue with just chicken breasts versus bones, which are hollow, which actually aren't as dense. Even though they're hard, they're not as dense. And it has to do with convection and some of those sciencey things I don't really understand a whole lot about, but once she explained it to me, it made sense. And so I'm totally comfortable now knowing that bone-in chicken takes less time than boneless chicken. So another thing I want to mention is when you can chicken, you can actually parboil it before you put it in jars. If you do that, you'll add some broth to it. But when you can it raw like this, it makes its own broth, and that's fabulous. It makes it so easy because you don't have to use that extra step of cooking the chicken at all beforehand. And my goodness, I mean, if you're going to end up having a product that's going to can the same amount of time anyway, why would you take extra time and cook it first? I do realize there are some people who like to cook it first a little bit because it makes a prettier product, but I'm not so concerned about that, because when I'm using chicken that's boneless chicken or bone-in chicken that I've canned, I'm not really worried as much about how it looks. If I want a chicken that really looks a certain way, I'm probably just going to use the chicken that's in my freezer. For instance, if I'm making lemon chicken piccata, or if I'm making grilled chicken, or if I'm doing chicken tenderloins or something like that. Anytime I need the chicken to not be shreddable, then I'm pretty much going to be using chicken that's in my freezer, because it's going to, anytime you can chicken, it's pressure cooking it while it's canning, and so it's going to get super tender and it's going to fall apart. There's another chicken canning project that I've done, which is canning chicken leg quarters with the bone in. That is a very neat project, but I will say that I don't think I'll do it again, because it is so tender that when you take it out, there's not many things I do with chicken legs and thighs that the chicken needs to be that tender. The way I'm using it up right now, though, is making Dijon chicken, which is pretty good. Actually, I'll post the recipe for that below also. But that was actually provided to me, that recipe was provided to me by a lady I met over on the Sutton's Days group on Facebook. So that's a really good page. It's a really good channel. So definitely check that one out. Some of my favorite things to make with this, as I mentioned, chicken salad. Also chicken, like enchiladas. I will shred it and make shredded chicken Phillies. I have a recipe for homemade hoagie rolls that's amazing. I will have to do a video about that very soon. But I love to just open a jar of this into a pan and shred it, get it sauteed with some onions and some mushrooms, and then serve it with melted provolone on those homemade hoagie rolls. And it is some good stuff, y'all. It's really, really good. All right. I'm going to have to get my little stick to work these down in the jars a little more, because I see some space down in there. You don't really so much have to debubble them when they're in when they're like this and when there's no liquid. It's not going to make as much difference, but it can help make a little more space for more chicken. And you really should roughly be getting about 1 pound of chicken per jar. There's another recipe I have for a chicken, broccoli, and rice casserole that I use this chicken with, and that's delicious. That's something we really enjoy. Oh, looks like I can get another piece in there and in there, and that's a nice squishy sound. Let's see. And I'm just going to make these pieces really small so that they'll fit. I am keeping that 1-inch headspace because that's important. That's going to be the thing that's going to keep the jars so that they should seal well. I don't want them to not seal because I've tried to be overly ambitious with filling them, but I think that that's going to do it. And you're just wiping the rims of the jars to make sure they're clean, make sure they're free of defects, because that can prevent a good seal with your lids. And you don't want to have your batch ruined because you just didn't take the time to do this. I can't wait for you to see the broth that this makes when it's canning. It's really cool. Also, you will notice that I am not salting this, and that's because I'm going to add salt when I actually cook with this, because it's going to be shredded anyway. So, I mean, could this be any easier? You're literally cutting up boneless chicken breast and putting it in jars and canning it. So since this chicken is cold and the jars are cold, I'm going to be putting this into my canner with just cold water from my sink and bringing the heat up. A lot of times you'll see me talk about canning and having things with hot water in your canner because the content of your jars is hot, and again, that goes back to that thermal shock thing that can cause the glass to break, which we definitely do not want to happen. All right, there we go. These chicken breasts that I have left over, there's 3 of those great big chicken breasts in here. I will probably put those in my refrigerator and actually end up making some chicken soup to can in another batch, but that won't be this one because that would be just enough for me to do probably about 6 pints of chicken soup, which is also great to do with these. In fact, sometimes I'll open these jars of the boneless chicken breast and dump them into a pot and add a teaspoon of bouillon and some extra water and get that up to a boil, and then add some egg noodles to make some homemade chicken noodle soup, which is really, really good. But let me go ahead and get these jars processing, and I'll be back with you when they're done. Alrighty. These chicken breasts have processed for 75 minutes at about 13 pounds pressure. It's supposed to be 11 pounds, but my canner likes to hang out at around 13 pounds. So I'm going to take these out so you can see how they look. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. It's just bubbling away. Alrighty, there we have it. I think I have a couple of jars that probably aren't going to seal this one. And then there's one over here. I don't think they're going to seal. We'll see. I'll give it overnight. But I've been having some issues with some of these lids that I bought. I bought them about a month ago, but you know, canning supplies have been out everywhere. And so, unfortunately, I think some of the things that were still available were old stock that was put out. And so, like I say, I've just had some issues with it. So we'll see. We'll see how they come out. I'll come back and record a little bit more once I know for sure, and I'll let you know how many of them came out. But this is it. I mean, this is it. This is the chicken. Lisa Sutton at Sutton's Days calls it ugly chicken because people say they don't like how it looks in jars. It looks beautiful to me because I know I can take it out and make something with it quick that's good and nutritious for my family. So there it is. Alrighty. So it's the next day, and I just wanted to show you how this chicken came out. 2 of the jars, just like I predicted, did not seal, but then, like I said, the lids were probably not new stock. They were older stock. But I'm still pretty happy that I got 6 pints, which is 6 pounds of chicken breasts out of this, and I'll be using these for all kinds of things. The ones that didn't seal last night, I just used in making supper last night, so that worked out really well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a comment below, give me a thumbs up. Be sure and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.